Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. It is Wednesday, right in the middle of the week. This week has flown by. The World Series of Poker is coming up. I leave for the World Series on Saturday or Sunday, one of the two. And before the World Series, there are two World Poker Tour tournaments. There's a $10,000 tournament at Aria and a $15,000 tournament for the World Poker Tour Tournament of Champions, also at Aria. And I'm looking forward to those. That's going to be a lot of fun. But then after that, we are playing a $10,000 turbo tournament at the Rio for the World Series, a $5,000 tournament, and probably a $1,000 tournament if I'm not in the 5K. So, lots and lots and lots of poker coming up for me. That's going to be my first little stint at the World Series, and I have to get back home, so I keep my wife and family, and that'll be fun. So, we'll go for about 10 days, then come back. But I'm giving away 1% of all of my World Series of Poker action. So any tournament that says World Series of Poker on it in Las Vegas in the summer, we're going to be giving away 1% of that. If you want to enter the raffle to get your chance to win 1% of my action completely for free, you can go to pokercoaching.com/WSOP. And if you're going to the World Series, or if you play tournaments on a regular basis, I have made a gigantic training bundle for you to help you get well prepared for the World Series of Poker. You can check that out at pokercoaching.com/WSOP bundle. DP says the World Series or World Poker Tour always seems to treat me well. Yes, it does. We've had some good runs. I haven't been playing a ton over the last 2 years because I have a 2-year-old now. But despite that, we have 2 final tables. So we've played, I don't even know, like 3 or 4 World Poker Tour tournaments each year. Somehow we have 2 final tables still. So maybe let's just play those tournaments. I remember a long time ago, this taxi driver, we were talking about poker. He said he used to play lots and lots of poker. He was asking like my results in various buy-ins for whatever reason, and I'm always happy to talk to people about anything. And he essentially said, why don't you just only play World Poker Tour main events? You seem to only win those. Or mostly win those. Like, why waste your time with anything else? And I'm thinking, maybe I should just have done that my entire career. I'd have probably like the same amount in winnings, and I would have played 1/20th as much poker. But that's not how it works. All right. Today, I want to talk about budgeting. We have to budget now because Amy just got a new job. And it's always important to make sure you are not spending yourself into oblivion whenever someone gets a new job or you have a big pile of money come in or you have a big pile of money go out, whatever. And you're going to find that if you budget well and spend less money than you make, you're going to get a hold of money. And if you spend more money than you make, well, you're going to have no money your whole life. And it's very, very important, I think, especially in the gambling industry, in the poker industry, where at some point your win rate will decline, that you make a point to not spend anywhere near as much money as you make. So many great poker players who are really good at poker, who have a very high win rate, are stone broke because they got used to spending all of their money years ago. Oh, James wants to come say hi. You want to say hello? Where's your shirt?
He has a, right here.
Uh-oh, that's a little bruise. You okay? Did you hurt yourself? Come here. Can you say hello to everyone? Nope, leave the door open. Leave the door open. You're going to be here for just really quick. Say hello.
Hello.
The other day, James had no pants. Today, he has no shirt. Look at you. Are you ticklish? Yes, he's ticklish.
I see the hill.
Yeah, you see James. That's him, that's him, that's him. 3 Jameses. And 1 right here. Are you going to go have fun with Dalma? Whoa, you can go have fun with Dalma?
Yeah.
All right, say bye-bye. Can you say good luck today?
Good.
Can you wave?
Hello.
Give blow 1 kiss. All right, give me a kiss. Oh, you give a hug too? Oh, you're so sweet. You're so sweet. All right, bye-bye. See you later. Have fun with Dalma. All right, well, hopefully keep an eye on him. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, love you. See you later. Yeah, then you come back. Yeah. James's new thing is, he says, Daddy always comes back. He's going to be sorely disappointed when I go away for 10 days. Matt says, talking to the taxi driver in Rounders, isn't that how Rounders ended? Yeah, I don't know, something like that, I think. Anyway, you want to figure out how do we spend way less money than we make, way less money, so that we accumulate wealth long term. And like we were discussing, things, industries like gambling, or if you're an athlete, or anything that results in skill levels degrading over time. In games like that, or in careers like that, you want to make sure that you really are saving for the future, and so many poker players just don't do that. It's, I guess it is what it is, but it's always interesting whenever you go to Vegas and you see people who, even like 10 years ago, whenever I was playing 5-10 no limit as a kid, now they're sitting there grinding out 1-2 no limit, barely making it, right? And that's because their skill levels have not kept up to the rest of the population. Maybe they've ruined their brains doing things like drugs or drinking too much or whatever. Who knows what their real issues are, right? Maybe they just got older and their thought processes declined a little bit. That's what happens, right? And if they're still sitting there grinding and barely making it, it implies they did not save very well, right? Maybe they love playing, right? If they just love playing, then sure, do whatever. But so many people, they just don't plan ahead. So, first things first, you need to know how much money you actually make. For everyone joining us now, we are talking about budgeting today. First things first, how much money do we actually make? After you pay taxes, because that money just isn't yours. Some people pay lots of taxes, some people pay almost no taxes, but whatever. You need to know how much money actually hits your bank account each month or on whatever period, right? Sometimes if you have your own business, maybe you don't pay all of your taxes until the end of the year, or maybe if you're a private contractor or whatever, make sure you plan ahead. Don't think, oh man, I don't have any money in March because I have to pay taxes. No, you should be setting that money aside ahead of time, right? Say you make $10,000 a month, put $3,000 in a side account for taxes, assuming you're not paying quarterly or whatever. So you definitely need to be doing that, right? You want to make sure that you don't have any unforeseen expenses, and realize, if you make $10,000 a month and you have no taxes taken out, you didn't make $10,000 a month. Pedro says you use Mint or Personal Capital to track everything. Yeah, these are definitely good programs. I have not had great success with these programs because they seem to miss a ton. That said, they certainly are very, very useful, especially if you don't actually have a ton of things going in and out. I mean, if you all see my bank account, there's like the 500 transfers each month of money in, money out, money in, money out on all sorts of stuff. But it's definitely good if you have just the routine bills. But anyway, also, if you are in the gambling space, or if you are a contractor, right, and you don't have a regular pay schedule, or if maybe you get percentages of something, whatever, you want to make sure your assumptions about your win rate are incredibly realistic. Incredibly realistic, right? So, what I used to do when I played poker is I would assume my win rate was about half of whatever I actually thought it was. And then I would spend and budget to spend about half of that. So, let's say I'm thinking I'm going to win $100 an hour at 5-10 no limit, which is what I was doing back then. I would assume I was running hot. I would make the assumption I'm running hot. Okay? And then I would assume I'm making 5 big blinds per hour, $50 an hour. And then I would spend like I was making $25 an hour. And I think that is very, very important. Because if you're spending like you're making $25 an hour, even if you are running hot and you're only making $50 an hour, half of your win rate, which is a pretty strong assumption, or like a pretty brutal assumption to assume that you're just running twice as hot as normal over a long period of time. It just probably doesn't happen. What's going to amount to is you're just going to have a pile of cash because you're essentially not spending much of any of it, right? And you have to be disciplined. You must realize just because I'm making $100 an hour doesn't mean I can spend like I'm making $350K a year before tax, right? I mean, sure, you can go out and you can buy a $100K car and buy a $500K house, and then you realize, oh, I actually don't have nearly as much money. If you're making $350K, you're paying 100-something K in taxes each year, right? You need to make sure you're budgeting and paying attention to that. I do think you need to pay your taxes appropriately. There's a saying, you don't poop where you eat. And if you live in America or any country, well, that is where you eat. You probably don't want to be pooping there. Diamante says, accounting rule of thumb, overestimate cost and underestimate income. That is exactly what I'm suggesting all of you do. So, now that we know how much money we actually make, and we are being very, very harsh on the estimate to where we think we're making half as much as we actually are, you want to make sure you keep track of everything, especially when money is obviously tight. I, for the longest time, have never had any money issues, and that's because I spent like I was making $25 an hour, but in reality, I was making $100 an hour, right? So I never really had to budget, like, am I spending too much money on coffee or dinner at the Bellagio when I'm going there every day? Just, like, didn't matter all that much. And if you do have a huge pile of extra money because you've drastically underestimated your income and you're still making that income, you don't really have to be nitpicky, right? At least in my opinion. Some people are always nitpicky. I don't love getting into the details of minute spending. I don't enjoy this. But it is relevant, right? Craig says, you wish you was my age when you were hearing this. Yeah, well, I try to always help everyone in the best, to the best of my ability. I'm glad that you're here now learning it. So, what you need to do, there are now programs that can do this. Back in the day, you just had to do it by hand. But now there are programs, or you can just go through your credit card statement and figure out what you are spending. Having one credit card, or maybe two credit cards, or debit cards, or whatever, is a very nice and easy way to track spending, by the way, because then everything's written down, right? If you're always spending cash for stuff, which is what a lot of cash game players end up doing, but if you are always spending cash for stuff, it's kind of hard to keep track of exactly what you're spending, unless you're actively writing it on everything, which is quite hard. That said, if you just make a point to do this for like 3 months straight, you're going to have a pretty good snapshot of what you're spending. So yeah, 3 months straight of tracking everything's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. That said, now there are programs like Mint, and there's another one. There are a few programs now that will essentially go into your credit card statement and your debit card statements and your bank account statements and categorize everything. It's not going to get it 100% right, especially if you're spending a ton, but it is relevant. So you want to be asking first, not necessarily what can I cut, but in my opinion, you want to be asking how can I make more money? Or how can I get rid of huge expenses? I know a lot of people say, like, stop buying your Starbucks coffee for $5, however much Starbucks coffee costs. We're having tea this week, by the way. No coffee the week before a big tournament series. Everyone knows this. All the good poker players do this. You must get off of whatever substances you are on so you have a very, very clear mind, and you make them more potent whenever you get there. Mainly referring to coffee for me. Some people do energy drinks. Some people do other drugs. I do the coffee. So, get off coffee the week before. Here we have some herbal tea. This stuff is very good. It's what I drink when I'm recording audiobooks. It's called throat coat tea. Basically, makes it where you can talk forever, even if you have a rough throat. Alright, so what can we do to give ourselves a big raise? Think about this, right? In general, you can give yourself a big raise by, well, getting a raise at your job, by getting a new job that pays more, by getting the same job that essentially, like say I work at Coca-Cola Company making $10 an hour. Maybe I move to Pepsi doing the exact same job and I negotiate a higher pay, right? Say you're making $13 an hour. Well, you just gave yourself, what is that, 25, 30% raise, something like that? And that kind of move is highly valuable, especially if you can stay at your current job and just get a 20 or 30% raise. Now, why would anyone want to give you a raise? You have to provide immense value, right? If you provide so much more value than everyone else who does the same rough thing you do, your boss would be silly not to give you a raise. I've had people in my business, right? I have people who work with me, and some of them do a ton, some of them don't, right? And I've done a pretty good job, I think, of pruning the people who don't do a ton. They don't add significant value. And the people who are left all do very good work, right? Who'd have thought? I think a lot of people just think that their job is to sneak by and slip by and do the minimum amount of work. But in reality, if you approach it more of, I want to do the maximum, I want to do way more than anybody else is doing, you will be the superstar. And if you're the superstar long enough, people will take note. I mean, think about me in the poker training space, right? I have made significantly more content than everyone, and I've made very, very good content. Maybe not even the best content that's out there, but it's certainly top 3, in my opinion. and in many of your opinions. And that has allowed me to give it to all of you at a very, very affordable price, whereas a lot of people who are putting out really high-quality content are charging a ton of money for it, right? And that's because they have not actually scaled all that well. It's important to figure out ways to help either the most important people a lot, or lots of people some. Or, like I try to do, I try to help lots of people a lot, right? And by doing that, you provide value, right? You all out here are my boss, right? If I do not do a good job for you, I don't get paid. And I recognize this, and I'm cool with it, right? That's what I want. I would much rather have lots of bosses out there than only one boss, but I realize most people are in a scenario in life where they have one boss. And if that's the case, I mean, that's probably the case for, I don't know, 90% of you here, maybe 95% of you here, you must really, really make the boss love you. Video paused. Someone's calling me. Who's calling me? People are amazed at what you're doing around the poker world. Well, I do my best, right? So anyway, first things first, can you get a raise? Can you provide more value? And if you can, you should do it. Assuming you care about this, right? Like if you care about getting wealthy, having extra money, not having to worry about finances, you need to figure out ways to make more money, especially if you're just breaking even, which is what most people are doing, or some people are going into debt. Do not go into debt if at all possible. Be disciplined. I mean, I didn't even have this written down. This should be obvious. If you cannot afford something now, you probably just need to be patient and wait. I do understand the idea that you have to pay for education, right? And people who go to college, very often they get loans. That's perfectly fine. But you definitely don't want to be doing anything where you are putting yourself in a significant amount of debt with a high interest rate, because then it'll take you forever to get out of it. You do not want to be in debt for forever, because it just doesn't do you any good. Debt's expensive. Most debt is expensive, not all debt. Things like student loans and mortgages really are not all that expensive if you get a good rate. But most people who are having a tough time make ends meet, they often can't get very good rates, right? And because you can't get good rates, you're having a hard time actually paying off those loans. So, in general, I mean, up until I bought my Manhattan apartment, which is quite expensive, I never had a loan that I could not immediately pay off. I would get a loan for houses I would buy in the past for credit building purposes. But even then, I would still pay them off after like 3 years, after whatever the minimum amount of time I needed to keep it to get the good credit rating, right? And I think that was very, very beneficial. I mean, most people have tons of debt, and you need to figure out ways to get out of debt, because debt is expensive. Just imagine, like, 20% of your money each month goes to someone who gave you money ahead of time, right? And that's a bit of a problem. Let's see. Next, once we figure out how to make more money, what can we cut? Well, cutting debt is the easy one, right? What else can we cut, though? Is there anything in your life that you actually could just get rid of? And ideally, these are things you don't even like, things you don't even enjoy. So, what are things that you can cut out of your life that you don't even enjoy all that much? Maybe stuff like coffee, right? I don't particularly care about cutting tiny expenses, but imagine you go to work every day. On your way to work, you stop and you get a $5 Starbucks. Well, get coffee at home. Make your own coffee that costs 50 cents. Imagine every day, that's 30 days times $5, $150 a month. Let's say you instead spend $20 on coffee, so you're saving $130 a month. Is it worth it to save $130 a month to not worry about or not have the convenience of going to get the coffee? Probably takes you the same time to make coffee as it does to go get it. And if you spend 5 minutes trying to learn how to make the coffee equally good as Starbucks, you'll be perfectly fine. So right there, you can save some money. $130 a month adds up. It's what, $1,500 a year? Would having an extra $1,500 a year help you? For some people, the answer is no. I would rather spend $1,500 to not have to worry about the coffee. But that is very often a rich person issue, right? Once you come into money, you can start spending money to gain time. This is why companies like Uber have succeeded massively, because it lets people save time. Because imagine you can sit in an Uber and get driven somewhere for an hour and it costs you, let's say, $100. If you make more than $100 an hour, why would you ever drive a car again, right? It just doesn't make logical sense. And If you can spend your time in the car either resting, which is worth something, or learning something, or doing work, whatever, it becomes very valuable. If you don't want to deal with having to buy coffee and make coffee in the morning because it takes you 10 minutes, whereas you could walk to Starbucks on your way and you can order it on your app and get it picked up in 1 minute, what is 10 minutes worth? Is it worth $5 a day? For some people, the answer is absolutely yes. For some people, the answer is absolutely no. But you're going to find whenever you are trying to, if you are trying to build wealth because you don't have any at all, you have to do a lot of the nitty-gritty stuff yourself. Easiest thing to do is just get off coffee, right? How do you feel about those peer-to-peer lending services for extra money? Hey, bye-bye, John. Hey, you gotta go. You gotta go. We're busy. Bye, sweet pea. James has started running to the office anytime he can. How do you feel about peer-to-peer lending services to get extra money? I think it's probably a horrible idea if you need the money immediately. Basically, whenever you're lending money to someone, they don't have to pay it back for quite a long time. So if you have extra money that you really don't mind locking up, that's a fine thing to do. And it may give you a decent rate, like 10% a year or something. But you have to lock up the money, and for all you know, it may not work out so well. We have to teach James to obey when we say no. He's not very good at listening when he says no. Fortunately, he does basically everything we want him to do naturally, but when you tell him no, he doesn't particularly enjoy it. Okay, what other big changes can you make? A lot of people pay for cable TV. I pay for cable TV. I don't want cable TV. But, my wife likes having cable TV so she can watch stuff and record stuff and whatever. So it's worth the price for us. But if you are struggling to make ends meet, well, why are you spending time watching television, right? You should be spending your time educating yourself. And I understand that's perhaps hard or more difficult or more strenuous, but that's what you need to be doing. You need to be spending essentially all of your free time doing things to better yourself. And maybe there are games that can help you better yourself. I mean, now there are games that will help you learn a language or learn to code or learn to play poker, right? If you're spending your time doing things like that, that's going to be way more beneficial than spending your time watching mindless TV. Now, I understand some TV shows are actually educational, or they get your strategic brain flowing or whatever. But for the most part, watching TV is just a pure waste of your time. And if you don't have much money and don't have much time, that's a very, very easy way to save some time. In all professions, it seems the norm that people live above their means. The key is to develop ways to become comfortable living below one's means. Yeah, that's what I said right at the top of the show, right? If you spend more money than you make, you're going to be broke. So you have to figure out ways to not do that, and that's what we're talking about today. So you, let's see. Also, what are some other expenses you can cut? I used to have a car that just sat in Las Vegas when I lived here in New York City, and it cost like $4,000 a year in insurance, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to pay, right? Especially when I don't actually need a car in Vegas because I can just take an Uber, right? So sell the car. There you get the whatever $50K back that you paid for it for the most part, and you no longer have that $4K a year expense, and you don't have to worry about the nonsense of having to go to the DMV and deal with all of that. Make sure you are accounting all of your actual expenses. Most of them are obvious. Like for me, mortgage, maintenance for the apartment, nanny for the kids, school for the kids, classes for the kids, cell phone bills, cable bills, power bills, etc., etc. All of these things you want to make sure you are accounting for. But then there's also lots of little things you can even lump into credit card bill, and that's sort of like your discretionary spending. But it's very important. TP says, as a financial coach, you told a client a long time ago, you need to get your expenses down. He said, or get the income up. Yeah, I mean, getting the income up is actually really, really important. I think a lot of people drastically underestimate that. Again, if you're spending your time watching TV or playing video games or whatever, you need to realize that you should be spending your time actually helping people and benefiting the world. You can build a business, right? Build a business that doesn't cost you much money. Almost all of you out there have some area of expertise. So you want to look at what you can do to add value to the world. If you are, let's say, really good at some video game, maybe you start making videos about how to beat this video game. People start watching the videos, Maybe they pay you for coaching services in your free time, or maybe they maybe just get a lot of viewers and you get ad clicks, whatever. Doing things like that in your free time that are beneficial to other people will be way more beneficial than just doing nothing and doing it for only yourself. Now you may say, well, I don't like doing stuff for other people. Well, then good luck to you. If people are disciplined enough, cashback credit cards bring in some money. I mean, so listen, there's a lot of little things like that you can do to bring in some amount of money. I mean, I have credit cards and I pay them off every month, and that's definitely a smart thing to do, especially if they give you 1 or 2% cash back. I mean, let's say you spend, gosh, how much do I spend on credit cards each year? I don't even know, 300K? If I spend 300K on credit cards each year and they give you 1% cash back, it's $3,000. So you want to ask, is $3,000 worth the potential risk of you overspending? And like, I've never had this issue. I've never been in credit card debt at all. And that's because I always realize, and I guess my parents instilled this in me, that you do not go into debt, especially if the debt is costly. They just said don't go into debt. There are times to go into debt, like college loans, right? Those are actually a reasonable thing to go into debt for if you need to do that. Things like a house, right? Makes sense to perhaps get a mortgage if you get a low interest rate. Anyway, all debt's not bad, but credit card debt is potentially quite bad. What do we think about investing in bonds, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, listen, this is more we've already talked about what to do once you come into money. We in a past a little coffee episode, we were talking today about what to do when you have no money, right? How do you start accumulating the wealth? And little things that bring in an extra 1% per year on a small number, because imagine you have no money already and you're like, let's say you spend $500 on your credit card each month. That's $5,000 a year, so you're making $50 a year. And this is probably for someone who has that credit card leak where maybe they spend too much. I would tell you just to get off the credit cards, right? And that would be very, very beneficial for people like that. The potential of them going off the deep end and spending more and then getting into debt is way more detrimental than the potential upside of making $50 a year from their 1%. Let's see. College is a joke and a waste of time. I definitely think there are many alternatives to college, and I think college is vastly overpriced. But at the same time, to get the majority of high-paying jobs in America, at least, you do need to have a degree from a reasonable college. If you do not have a degree from a reasonable college, quite often they just won't even look at you, and it's been unfortunate that is the case. A way around that is to provide immense value. I somehow have connections with many incredibly, incredibly wealthy people who have like billions of dollars, and it's because I add value to their life, right? I took my skill that I developed as a teenager playing poker. I've worked on it hard, and I have learned to help others with it. And it turns out some other people, some of whom are very influential, very wealthy, very powerful, etc., they want to hear what I have to say, which is kind of neat, right? You need to find out ways to help people like that. And like, I know if I ever needed to get a job, I could talk to them and they'd probably give me a job because they realize I add value, I know how to work hard, and I can learn stuff, right? And if you show people that you're motivated, perhaps that's a way around the system of you have to have a degree to get looked at. But most people don't want to do the hard work. They want it easy. Remember, most people are trying to just sneak by and do the minimum. And you don't want to do the minimum, you want to do the maximum. Let's see. When's the deadline for the homework assignment? The day before the homework assignment. You try to break down your financial poker winnings by putting some into investments, bills, etc. I mean, I would tell you if you have poker winnings and a job, I would tell you not to spend any of your poker winnings, right? If you spend your poker winnings, well, you're going to have a hard time building your bankroll. But the idea of I'm going to partition X amount for this, and X amount for this, and X amount for this is certainly reasonable and certainly viable. Let's see. Crypto is where the money is. You can turn 1,000 into 10,000. Yeah, you can also turn 10,000 into zero. I mean, we've discussed this in what to do once you come into money, and the answer to what you do once you come into money is not blasted in very, very high volatility risks. If you do that, sure, you could get rich. You could also get broke. And you will find that life is kind of like a poker tournament where you only have one buy-in, and you really don't want to get broke. At least in my opinion. Some people, they don't care if they go broke. I really don't want to get broke. Dimani says there was a cash envelope budget system. I guess you just put money in an envelope and forget about it. That helped you? Yeah, I mean, you just have to be disciplined and not spend what you have. Some people have a hole in their pocket. One of my friends says that his grandkid, anytime he gets money, he just has to spend it on something. And that is a problem that they're trying to... I mean, this friend of mine is a very, very smart, wealthy guy. And he's like, we have to teach him not to spend all of his money as soon as he gets it. And a lot of people never learn that. If they have $100 in their pocket, they are spending that $100 today. And you just cannot do that. Most important thing we said is to make a budget that focuses on saving money. Yeah, you have to save money. And once you save money, then you can invest it into, first, liquid things that you can easily cash out. Like stocks are a very relatively liquid thing you can easily cash out. Or high interest savings account. Wealthfront just made a 2.3% interest savings account, which is like free money. Also, you want to be investing in things that are not that volatile, but will trickle up slowly, because then you just hold on to your money indefinitely, right? So all that's very important. Am I playing the Big 50? I am not. The reason I'm not is because there's a World Poker Tour Tournament of Champions at the same time. It makes more sense for me to play a World Poker Tour Tournament of Champions than the Big 50. Let's see. People are asking various things about investing. I'm not a financial advisor or planner, and all this information is purely for entertainment. Don't forget. Every time you get any sort of money, you lose it. Yeah, that's a problem. It's very important to have low overhead. I think a lot of people you keep mentioning that, and it's very, very important. What's the name of David Einhorn? Yeah, David Einhorn's one of my poker students. We're friends, and I'm going to a concert tonight for one of his the people who work with him. So you make friends, right? You make good connections. You have fun, and it's good. Divide income into envelopes for food, clothes, etc. And when the money is done for an item, there's no more. I mean, that seems kind of rough. You just don't eat if you spend your money too fast eating. That'd be pretty brutal to not eat for a week. Let's see. Let's see. You hope you run deep in the World Series of Poker. I hope I run deep in the World Series of Poker too. Are the regular banks in Vegas like Chase or Citibank? I know there's not a Chase, which is where I'm currently banking. I'm not a big fan of it, but there are no great options. I know there's TD Ameritrade, but it's like way out. So that was my other alternative. They were being slow setting up my accounts, though, so we went with Chase, which is very convenient here in New York City. But whenever you need to get a hold of money in Vegas, just wire it to the casino and they'll hold it for you. In a 10-player cash game, do we need to play a minimum of 10% of the hands? No, you probably need to play more. You definitely need to play more. I do have some money in crypto. It's very important to understand what you are investing in, and most people don't. Most people just pile their money in. I mean, crypto is a good example of that. There are so many people in poker who are purely ignorant, who have lost a ton. Some have made a ton, but again, in my opinion, you need to treat poker much more like, or your life much more like a poker tournament than a cash game where you're just making the most plus EV decision. Also, if you are going to be making bets on very highly volatile things, make sure you're perfectly happy losing that money. If you put 1 or 2 or 3% of your money in something like that's very highly volatile, this can be even things like options, right? When you're trading options, very often it's a thing that you cash very infrequently. But when you do cash, you win a ton. Win a ton in the stock market. That's fine as long as you're putting tiny little pieces, like poker tournament buy-ins, right? You want to be putting in 1% or 0.5% of your bankroll every time you play, and that just kind of ensures that you're not going to go broke, assuming you're making plus EV decisions. That said, I'm not smart enough to know what is going on in these industries, and I'm already relatively financially literate, right? And I've talked to a lot of poker players who have all their money in crypto, and some of them have gone broke already, which is interesting because they were in it, they were leveraged, and it went from even like 10K down to 5K, they're all broke. Could you imagine going broke off something you don't even know about? I mean, like how... that's just, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to me. Also, can you imagine getting rich off something that you know nothing about? Well, maybe that's how they've been playing poker and gambling their whole lives. Let's see. Do I know the guy James who's winning at poker? I do not, but I'm winning at Jeopardy. Interestingly enough, I imagine he probably already had money before he started because I know a few of his friends and I know they all have piles of money. And quite often you have somewhat near the same amount of money as people you hang out with to some extent. So I imagine this is certainly life-changing. 1 point something million that he's got already is life-changing, but guy probably already had $1 million or more. Cheap ATMs at the Royal Casino through Fred. All right. Low-cost index funds. That is correct. All of my retirement money is in low-cost index funds, and I highly suggest everyone do that. What's the best way to get money from your home to Vegas? Just wire it. Wire it to the casino. I wired money to Aria the other day. It was perfectly fine and perfectly easy. You go there, you get your money, and you go play. You'd rather go broke at roulette than crypto. Yeah. There is a Chase in Vegas. All right, good. I don't know if it's convenient. Really, the thing whenever you're in Vegas, like, is the bank actually convenient? Maybe there is one, but it's certainly not convenient to the casinos. You don't want to be taking a 20-minute taxi ride to go to the bank. That's ridiculous. Have I looked at American funds? I don't know what an American funds is, but anything that is a mutual fund I do not want to touch because the fees are too high. Speaking of the financially literate people I've talked to, they very often do not like fees. Fees will eat you alive. TD Ameritrade isn't a bank, it's a broker. TD Bank is a bank as far as I know. They have them all over New York City. You go there, and it's a bank. They're FDIC insured. Ameritrade is, I guess that's their gambling version. What's the best event to play at the World Series? The main event, clearly. Vanguard has the lowest fees. That is, I don't know if they have the absolute lowest, but they certainly do have very low fees. Vanguard is a very good thing. Lots of poker players got filthy rich off investing in Vanguard funds 15 years ago, and they've tripled their money since then. And they had a lot of money. How do we only have a few viewers here? Understand that we're not only streaming on Instagram. This is Instagram over here. This is the rest of the world over here. Rest of the world, it says 146 right now. I know this will get, I don't know, probably 1,500 views on YouTube, probably about 1,500 views on Twitter. And, 3,000 viewers is not so bad. How does it not have a ton of viewers now? Well, it's 9:38 a.m. in the morning, and that's a little bit early for most poker players, but that's a-okay. Am I friendly with Sean Deeb? Sean Deeb's not really friendly with anyone. Sean Deeb enjoys berating people for no real reason, just for fun. Some people are kind of bullyish, Some people are bullies, and that's how they operate. I tend to not be too friendly with people who bully people, and that's because I don't see the purpose in it. Certainly you should be speaking your mind when you feel inclined, when it's highly important, but if you're always running your mouth saying nonsense or close to nonsense, you're just going to be known as the person who talks about nonsense. And to be fair, Sean Deeb doesn't go off all the time, but there are certainly other people in the poker world I'm thinking of who just say absolute nonsense all the time, and they like lie, right? Like, I don't think Sean Deeb's actively lying to people. There are people in the poker world who do actively lie to their fans, though, in exchange for trying to get them to make money off of them. And those are the really bad actors, in my opinion. Let's see. Can you turn a fish? Wait, I can turn fish to whale? I don't know what that's saying. Let's see. Am I playing the main event? Oh, the mini-main event. No, I'm not playing a mini-main event. The lowest buy-in tournament I'm going to play in Vegas, as far as I know, is there's a $1,000 turbo tournament, a one-day tournament. The next lowest buy-in, I think, is $1,500, but even then I'm going to be skipping a lot of those, just because they're not all that financially profitable. Let's say you have 50% return on investments. Again, always try to underestimate. Say you have 50% ROI. You play for a day and a half on average. It means you make $750 in a day and a half. I mean, like, that's fine, but I can just sit there and play 5-10 no limit and make more money, right? You're saying I'm the best coach on earth. Well, thank you. I do my best. All you can do is do your best. What do we think about the Unbeatable Mindset webinar by Trisha Cardner? I think Trisha Cardner's content is fantastic. What would I be playing with a $5,000 bankroll? $10 sit and goes. Maybe $20 or $30 sit and goes. That's what I would do. And I would take that money and I would double it and double it and double it in about 6 months. Then we'd have $25K. Then we'd start doing something else. Let's see. What do we think about calling the clock? Sure. If people are going slow, call the clock. It is your right and responsibility as a poker player to call the clock and keep the game moving at a reasonable pace. If people are trying to ruin the game by playing slowly, call the clock on them. Let's see. What's the best way to spin up your bankroll if you have $7,000? Well, I just told you all, right? Play $30 sit and goes. Play 10-cent, 25-cent cash games. You will pretty much be guaranteed to spin it up or down if you're bad. You'll have a very clear indicator of your skill level. You will get a lot of experience, and in time, you will do great. Problem is, most people think poker is a get-rich-quick scheme, and it is not. It is absolutely not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is a get-rich-slow scheme. And most people don't want to get rich slow. They want to get rich quick because they think they have to have things now. You'll understand delayed gratification is key. Absolutely key. Tim says, I meant live poker, and I was saying how to grind up my bankroll. Well, why do you have to play live? You need to find a game that you can beat that also decreases variance. If you're afraid to play online poker or something like that, then you're just turning off a lot of the very, very clear options. And I don't know why you would shut down your options for no real reason. Find a game you can beat and play it a lot. And, ideally, have low variance because you have a big edge or because you have a big bankroll. And if you have 25 big blinds for 1-2 no limit and you have no experience and you're not a winning player because you only have $5,000, well, that's a bit of a problem, right? Brian says, read Strategies for Beating Small Stakes Poker Cash Games or Tournaments. It'll change your life. It's definitely a nice, solid, concise book that gives you tips to beat small stakes games. If you understand those books, you'll be able to beat the small stakes games. They're only like 80 pages long. It's not hard. What are my thoughts on sports betting? It's another get-rich-slow game, but everyone wants to get rich quick at it. All gambling games are get-rich-slow games. For the most part. There are people who do get rich quick from everything, but that's not how it goes for most people. Certainly it go that way for me or any of my friends. We started off with no money. We turned no money into some money, then some money into a lot of money, then a lot of money into a lot of money. And here we still are. Those who tried to turn some money into infinite money immediately were pretty much done. Is sports betting beatable? Yes. Almost every game in the casino is beatable. Almost every one. Actually, almost. I would venture to say every game in the casino is beatable, but only very occasionally. For example, roulette, right? People think, oh, you can't beat roulette. Well, you can if you get good comps, right? Imagine you find a casino paying 5 times comps, and they normally give you back, let's say, some percentage of your loss, or they take the house edge. Let's say the house edge is the house edge is 5%. Let's just pretend, and then somehow you're getting back 7% in comps. You're making 2% of spin, which is huge. You will crush them. You will demolish the casino. And that does come up every once in a while. And they do that to try to get people to come back in and continue playing, right? They assume you're going to play when they give you 7% comps and when they give you 1% comps. And you'll just play it. You'll come in for the 7% and then just play all the time, right? Roulette is one of the best odds. No, I use roulette because it has awful odds. And you can still beat it. And craps, same thing. It has a low house edge. If they give you good comps, you will crush it. Video, like slot machines, get good comps, play in the various free roll tournaments they give you, etc., etc. You'll crush them. The problem is people play whenever they don't have an edge. You need to be playing when you have an edge. And you have to understand that it is okay to play in a scenario where you are giving up an edge in exchange for a future edge, right? You think it's better to stay in a laboratory? I don't know what staying in a laboratory means. If you're a scientist, it makes a lot of sense to stay in a laboratory, I guess, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you're not a scientist. Have to call someone to install new air conditioners in the apartment. Okay, don't forget to do that. You had a 60K bankroll, you lost most of it besides 5K due to taking bigger shots. Bradley, that's exactly what I was saying. What's your next move? Well, go back, start small, right? Grind it back up again. You can't stop playing the gambling games. Yes, you must stop playing the gambling games. Geraldo Vulgaris is living proofs that sports betting is beatable. There's a whole lot of sports betting games that are beatable. And even like regular sports betting is beatable. Problem is you have to have tons and tons of data, and you have to know how to make use of the data, which almost no one does. Do you know anyone who's currently beating sports? Yes. If so, what sports are they beating? Many of them. All sports are beatable. The problem is that almost no one beats them. How many big blinds do you prefer to start with in cash games? Panda, you need to read Jonathan Little on Live No Limit Poker, because it's not as easy as buying for 100 big blinds or buying for 50 big blinds. No. Depends on what everyone else is doing. You're not playing solitaire over there. Let's see. Should you invest your time in poker or becoming a chef? Probably makes a lot more sense to become a chef. You're probably way more live to do that, and you have a very good backup plan of continuing what you're doing. Am I doing some vlogs for Vegas? I am. Hello from South Korea. Hello, hello. All right, so anyway, I think a lot of people get very close-minded, and they think, you can't beat this game because I read something that says you can't. Well, understand, they're professionals at almost everything. Obviously, the number of people who are beating them is incredibly low. And you have to make sure you understand what you are playing, and you must be incredibly disciplined. I bet 99% out of you are 99% of you out there are not disciplined enough to make it as a professional gambler, because 99.999% of the human population is not made to do this type of thing. They think, I want to go play and I want to have fun. If you're thinking you want to go play and have fun, the gambling games are not for you. Sorry. If you can't manage your bankroll, if you can't budget, if you can't make sure you're spending way less money than you're making, you are not fit to play gambling games. Because gambling games are one of the few industries, or being a professional gambler, is one of the few industries where you will have big downswings, right? If you have big downswings, then what happens if you think you're going to make $5,000 a month and you only make $1,000 that month? That's not even a downswing. You still won. Don't forget that. And now you can't pay your bills because you spend all of your money each month because you think you're going to make $5K and you spend $5K. Well, now you're just stone broke after one bad month, right? And that's what happens to a lot of people. A lot of people make the mistake of putting their money in a lot of online poker sites, right? So many people got screwed when Full Tilt, Ultimate Bet, all the other sites in the past that have operated shadily within America, when all those went out for poker players, either they didn't get their money at all, so it's just gone, or it took them 3 years to get it back, or 2 years, or whatever it was. And that's not good, right? You must make sure that you're well protected if you are doing anything that has you the least bit out of line. How should you grow your bankroll? Anyone asking this question, go to jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll. You have to understand, so many people out there want you to take your money and give it to them in exchange for what? An experience, in exchange for getting to play a game, in exchange for who knows what, right? People want to get a hold of your money. And online sites, for example, want you to put your money in them because they know that you are going to lose almost all of it. And when I say you, I mean the generic player, right? You all may not know this, but online sites, whenever you put money in them, they don't count that as a deposit. They count that as a purchase. There's a big difference in that, right? A deposit means we are definitely giving this money back. A purchase is, this is our money now. We can do with it as we choose. And sure, they have to keep some money for cash outs, but a lot of them, they keep 5% of the money on hand, especially the ones that operate, that are not well regulated. The big sites, Party Poker, PokerStars, etc., they all do a very good job of making sure they always have money on hand. But a lot of the other sites, take Lock Poker as an example, right? They spent literally every dollar that came in on advertising. And they got a lot of people to deposit money in them. Advertising and cash outs for the owners, of course, and the people who were promoting it. A lot of people promoting these rather shady sites, or potentially shady sites, are doing it because they're getting paid and they're not looking out for you. So don't give away your money. Yeah, you have to understand, if you do take money from people, you must provide immense value. Like, for example, say you have you go to a fancy restaurant, right? And it costs $100 a meal. Most people are not unhappy when they leave. Well, I guess if you care about the money too much, you are, but you shouldn't have gone in the first place, right? But if you provide a value, people are more than happy to do it. Say you pay for a gym membership, right? It's probably worth it for some people. Say you buy Jonathan Little poker training. It's probably worth it for a lot of people if they apply what they use. if you do things like I don't know, buy drugs and you don't even like the experience and you're addicted to it and it's not fun and it's ruining your life, well, that's probably not a good use of your resources, right? In general, in my opinion at least, you want to be spending your money on good beneficial experiences. Oh, come here. You can say bye one time. But then you go, okay? Say bye one time. We're almost done.
Hi.
Can you say hi, everybody?
Hi.
What are you eating?
Huh?
What's in your mouth?
Huh?
Okay, tell everybody bye-bye.
Papa said that.
Can you wave?
Never for help.
Yes, Mr. James. Can you get Daddy kissing?
Never help.
Yeah, that's Dad James right there.
No.
You gotta go.
No.
People keep calling me on my phone today. You gotta go. Daddy's show's almost over. Bye-bye. See you. Go. You gotta 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 go, sweet friend. He's the star and he's unhappy. What are we talking about? Hold on to your money. Don't spend all of your money. If you spend all of your money, you're not going to have any money. If you lose all the money, you're not going to have any money. If you gamble it all away, if you give it to other people, whatever, it's not good. Oh, goodness. What is the matter with you, John? We straight bullied the kid. He had to go. He had to go. I'm sorry. The problem is, you all may not realize this, but I'm sitting in here working all day, and whenever people come in here and interrupt me, it is not good because I lose my train of thought. Anytime you're doing any sort of creative activity, like making poker content, like writing books, etc., whenever you get distracted, it's not like when you're, basically it takes you time to get back into it. And I'll sit here, like in my ideal world, the house is silent. There are no sounds. It is just me working on the projects. And if we do that, I can get stuff done very quickly. Very, very, very quickly. But whenever there's lots of distractions, it's like, can't get anything done. And we have to teach James to leave Daddy alone when the door's shut, but you just saw what happened. He runs in here, slams the door open, and jumps in. It's kind of sad, because, like, look, I go out there and I play a lot during the day. Like, probably, I don't know, an hour and a half each day I'm out there playing with James during the work period, right? And it's got to be balanced, otherwise nothing gets done. That's the reason DP moved to the country part of your town. Peace and quiet. Yep. Do you already discuss breakdown of percentage income, like savings, etc., etc.? No, we don't break down that kind of thing because people get to decide what they spend their money on. You just need to make sure you're not spending much of your money, right? Cost of renting an office versus the time lost. I mean, I've thought about renting an office. James, you gotta go, buddy. You see? Yeah, I've thought about renting an apartment, but I don't want to get up and go to an office each day. That seems miserable to me. I did think about getting like a sound studio. You can rent sound studios to record all of my videos, right? Because it does get kind of loud in here, and I could certainly have a better recording environment. But I am not doing it. New Jersey office. I'm sure not going to New Jersey. If I get an office, it's going to be right down the street. Commuting is unacceptable to me. Because when you commute, you lose a lot of time. When you lose a lot of time, it's rough. Speaking of budgets, kids are horrible for budgets. That is accurate. It's a good way to end the show. What are my thoughts on staking players from your bankroll? You better make sure your bankroll is humongous, and you better make sure they're actually very good. All right, that's it. I'm going to go now. Have a great day. Good job. Good luck. Have fun. Enjoy yourselves. We will probably be back on Friday. There's a chance I'm not. Wait, what am I? Is there a chance I'm not? No, we'll be back on Friday. I'm actually presenting a webinar tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be going through 5 big hands from major final tables online, so definitely check that out. You will definitely get information for it if you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, if you're on my email list, etc. And that'll be that. Have fun. Good luck. I'll talk to you later.